Everybody knows the stoner stereotype. Usually a young adult male, maybe entering into full on adulthood, but struggling to get up off the couch to actually do adult things like go to work, move into your own place, and generally start taking responsibility. Now, there's a lot wrong with this stereotype. First of all, marijuana doesn't turn everyone into a couch potato. I know I found that it gave me more energy, more enthusiasm, at least initially, and it expanded my sense of ambition and creativity. That is, until it didn't. But I always resented this idea that I was a pothead, or that my drug of choice was keeping me in some kind of a state of arrested development. The bigger problem with this stereotype, though, is that it suggests that the only way to get out of marijuana dependency is to sign on to a whole set of conventional habits that men are really right to reject. If being an adult is synonymous with sucking it up and working at a crappy 9 to 5 just to pay rent in a tiny little apartment in a cramped city, then who wants to sign up for that? For those of us who did have conventional jobs and still found ways to use daily, marijuana represented the best escape option we had from the stultifying effects of modern life. More people than ever these days are stuck in the rat race, this little maze where there's the illusion of choice, but really, most of the alternatives are actually just dead ends, and we're all stuck chasing after the same lousy cheese or something like that. Can you relate to the feeling of being cramped or playing a game that you can't win with rules that you didn't agree to? Maybe that's what caused you to start using marijuana in the first place. The feeling of breaking out of the constraints of mundane everyday reality and being able to create your own reality. But now, you're stuck smoking too often. It's lost its effects, and you're feeling even more stuck than ever before. I've been thinking about what used to draw me to marijuana, and there's this element, I think, of a sense of spaciousness that I used to get when I smoked. It was a sense of the world opening up to new possibilities, that I wasn't just following a track that someone else had laid out for me. That's one of the really frustrating features of the modern world, isn't it? That it seems like anything that is worth doing has already been done before by someone else. There's no more land available, at least not close to any of the cities, and most of the possibilities for exploration have already been tapped. Every square foot of the earth has been sort of mapped out and is accounted for, and there's some bureaucrat somewhere with an idea for what you can and can't do there. But with marijuana, it doesn't matter so much. You can still get that sense of possibility even without a concrete plan of action for escaping the rat race. Even just walking down the hall to the bathroom becomes an adventure. You become an explorer or a pioneer. Although it's not real. We know that. And when we become sober, it's obvious. But when we're in the moment, when we're still high and riding that rush of exhilaration, it feels real. When I was starting to recover from marijuana addiction, in the early days of sobriety, I found that I had to recover that sense of spaciousness somehow, that sense of possibility. I found this spaciousness in two places primarily. First, I found it in natural outdoor workouts, whether running in the hills and open spaces or sprinting on an outdoor track, or just finding a tree to climb or do pull-ups on. It's a small thing, but there's a psychological shift that happens when you move your body in natural ways, outside of the confines of a gym or fitness room. I found that I'm much more motivated when I'm out in the open elements. People always want to box you in. They want to put you in a gym and say, move your body in this way and get into this pose. Move the levers on the machine in this direction. Well, what if I don't want to? What if I want to, climb a tree, swim in a river, pick up a rock and throw it as far as I can, or grapple with a friend who you trust enough to be rough with? These are all things that the modern world really stamps out of us, deprives us of the sense of possibility, that sense of openness and spaciousness. The second place I found that freedom was in sailing on the open waters of San Francisco Bay, this literal wide open space where there weren't many people around. For me, it represented the closest possible frontier. I wasn't going to set off sailing to Alaska or the middle of the Pacific, but every time I cast off from the docks in Berkeley, something about it just felt ever so slightly subversive. Like I wasn't supposed to be doing that, even though there's no law against sailing. Yet. As men, I think we need to recover healthy outlets for expression of our full embodied self. And that means asserting a right to take up space. It means comfortably inhabiting your body when you are taking up space, and not shrinking into the shadows or just following some track that's been set out before you. We get caught up in this rat race and think that we have to stay within the lines, and that's true, sometimes, but we can all stand to gain from thinking outside the box. Get into physical spaces that are more open and liberating. Move your body in ways that break that conditioning that's holding you into those boxes. Just doing this, physically, has an effect on how you think, your mentality, and making you realize that there are more possibilities than you realized. Most of the confines are actually psychological in nature, or at least abstract, and are not physical constraints. They're social, mental, bureaucratic. In a word, they're not real. Or at least, they're not really real. What's really real is your physical body, nature, the elements, gravity. These are the things that limit you and limit your potential, not some petty bureaucrat 3,000 miles away. And the sooner you learn how to navigate these things without your drug of choice, the sooner you'll find fulfillment in the real world, and the motivation to do things you maybe never thought were possible. So get out there in your body, explore whatever frontier is calling to you, and find out what you've been missing out on. See you on the road.